going on, everyone? Matthias here for Performance Fitness. I hope you're having a great day, and I wanted to address this comment right here when someone asked me about how to make a picking program in my previous video, and it's something that I wanted to address before. I also do like to attend the concerns of the very few people watching this video, so you ask for it, you get it, okay? I'm going to be talking about how to structure your program, okay? So basically 3 blocks of training, okay? So if you don't know, we can utilize block periodization, which is when we destinate some block to a certain development of like a muscle group, or more like into aesthetics and hypertrophy, or into a skill, which is going to be developing volume, developing strength, and ultimately the picking of that skill, where we're talking about strength, is going to be to show like the 1 rep max of that given movement, okay? So like talking about powerlifting or weightlifting. I'm also going to be utilizing some kind of linear periodization, okay? So linear periodization just means that you increase one variable of the training, which being intensity in this case, in a linear fashion, okay? So here, if you're seeing at the percentage, this is going to be the percentage of the 1 rep max, okay? So how close to our 1 repetition max you are, how close to like an all-out 1 rep max. So here we're going to be having lower volume, 55 to 80% of your 1 rep max, 65 to 90%, 75 to 100%, okay? So as you can see, the intensity is going to be increasing linearly throughout the blocks, okay? So to have like a more or less clear picture of what I'm talking about, let's say you're doing 8 weeks of volume, 8 weeks of strength, and 4 weeks of your picking, okay? So leading up to like a meet or testing your 1 rep max, okay? Like whatever your goal with strength might be. And I also want to clarify that this is going to be a rough guideline to follow, okay? If you're a coach like I am doing myself, you know that like each individual needs different times, different periods, different intensities, different rep ranges for them to develop, okay? So maybe someone is going to be very good at 1 rep max testing, okay? So maybe you need to develop some more time into that volume, okay? Because they might have trained in the past a lot closer to this rep range, okay? And you may need to develop some of the work capacity of the athletes, or maybe the athlete just does not respond well to higher reps, and you might want to destinate all of your volume into lower reps. Even in your volume phase, you might be doing all sets of 5 or even less, okay? You can do less reps than 5 in your volume, okay? This is not mandatory. You don't need to do 5 to 12 reps, okay, in the volume phase. You can alternate this, okay? You can do 15 reps, you can do 3 reps, you can even do singles in your volume week, okay? It's not going to be the most often utilized, but you can actually do this, okay? So bear in mind that this is going to be flexible, it's going to be a very rough guideline for the athlete. The same thing when it comes to the volume, the variation. Maybe some athletes don't need much variation, and maybe some other athletes do need more variation because they do have some more easy to identify weak points in the training, so they might need higher variation, okay? So with that said, let's get into the good stuff, okay? So when I'm talking about the volume block, the main goal, of course, as I said here, is to accumulate volume, okay? So this is going to enhance our neural capacity as we are doing more reps overall of the given movements, okay? So we're taking a squat, for instance, it's going to be quite a technical movement when it comes to strength training. If you're squatting multiple times a week, multiple reps a week, and especially in a sub-maximal fashion, which is what I always preach, okay? I never program, unless it's like close to a deload or something like that, I never do program high exertion sets, high exertion repetitions, because this is going to diminish the quality of your repetitions, it's going to diminish the volume that you're going to be able to obtain, okay? And volume is going to be a main, like a key essential driver of hypertrophy, of strength, and this is what I want to develop here, okay? So volume has to be really well managed in order to modify, like to have the desired adaptations that we want of our training, okay? So volume here is going to be higher, okay? So overall reps throughout the week, I never actually put like maybe like 300 reps throughout the week, because for once all of the athletes are going to be very different, okay? So maybe you have doing one athlete 200 reps in your volume, another athlete having doing 800 reps in their volume. It really depends. Like, and also if you're talking about reps of a bench press, reps of a pull-up, of an overhead press, compared to a conventional deadlift of a tall person. This is going to be a lot higher exertion for the individual, okay? This is going to be fatiguing a lot more a comparison to like a pull-up and stuff. So I don't actually like to place these things on like how many reps you do overall in the week. This is going to be very personalized to the program. This is where like a coach comes in, okay? So yeah, intensity is going to be lower, so volume can be higher, okay? So you cannot raise too much of both at the same time, okay? Because if you're doing, as I said in my previous video, if you're doing 90%, you cannot do 10 sets of 10 at 90%, okay? You can do 5 sets of 2 at 90%, okay? But much more than that is going to be diminishing returns in terms of performance. So if you're aiming to accumulate more volume, to increase neurogenetic adaptations, increase muscle hypertrophy, which is a main driver of muscle strength, you cannot do so much higher when it comes to the volume. Intensity, sorry. But of course, as I said previously, some athletes may need higher intensity in their volume system, so this is going to be managed by the coach, okay? Second stuff is going to be, the reps. When we're talking about hypertrophy, okay, we don't need to do a specific rep range, okay? We don't need to do 6 to 12 rep range to build muscle. But when it comes to hypertrophy, this is going to be more efficient. Why? Because hypertrophy is mostly determined by the progressive overload, so giving a progressive stimulus in the muscle throughout the weeks, okay? So more reps, more sets, more intensity. This is going to allow for a progressive overload, which is going to translate into hypertrophy. And the second variable is going to be volume, okay? So this right here is going to be the prime stage in which to promote hypertrophy. This is not to say that here you're not going to be having hypertrophy, but most of the volume is going to be here, so most of the hypertrophy is going to include here. And this is going to be tied down together with height variation, okay? So when we're talking about a volume phase, you might do some kinds of more of like a bodybuilding approach when it comes to maybe like, I don't know, you do like a lower body day, so you start with squats, deadlifts, maybe those two are going to be heavy, and if you're doing that close to a peaking, you aren't going to include much variation afterwards, okay? Because we want to save all the energy to perform in the higher intensities. So maybe here, when we're talking about lower intensities, higher volume, we're going to be including a Bulgarian split squat, like a good hip thrust, we're going to be including lunges, you're going to be including stiff leg deadlifts, we're going to be including maybe leg extensions, leg curls, all of the things are going to be, I'm not talking about all of the things after your volume, but like you maybe include some of these movements into those workouts because you're going to be increasing higher volume. Also, the fact that you're going to be doing unilateral work is going to promote more of a healthy, well-balanced body overall, because we all the time develop asymmetry, so maybe one side is stronger than the other, and here we're going to be trying to save energy. We're not going to be expending too much energy in variations, okay? But here is the time, if you do have some asymmetries, if you do want to train more of the mobility, more of the like strengthening one leg more than the other, this is the time to do it, okay? So I'm going to be kicking up the pace because the video is going to be turning too damn long. Next, I'm going to be the block of strength, okay? Strength, intensification, whatever you might want to call it, okay? This is going to be more of a hybrid block between the volume phase. We're doing like non-specific training, between Mr. Gomas, not specific, because we're going to be doing lower intensity, higher volume, and this is going to be the most specific if we are talking about absolute strength, okay? So how to develop absolute strength, this is going to be more specific because we're going to be touching higher percentages, and after this, the ideal scenario will be to test your 1 repetition max, okay? So this is going to be a middle ground where we're talking about increasing the intensity a little bit. So as you can see here, the intensity is increased a little bit. We're talking about going between 55 to 80% to 65 to 90%. And some of you might be wondering like why this spread range is going to be like, what is going to be so spread out? Like why so much difference between 55 and 80%? Because we are going to be using daily undulating periodization, okay? This just basically refers to like alternating the rep ranges throughout your week to promote adaptations, okay? So if you're doing every week, maybe your frequency with squatting is going to be 3 times a week, and you always do sets of 5, the adaptations are going to be limited, okay? Because you're going to be using the same energy system, you're going to be using the same muscle fibers, okay? Because you actually use slightly different muscle fibers when it comes to the rep ranges, okay? So when you're doing about 1 to 2, 3, 4 reps, you're going to be using more of the fast twitch muscle fibers. If you're doing more of a 12 repetition squats, which is going to be pretty much cardio. You're going to be using more of a type 2, more of endurance work, fibers, which is going to promote more hypertrophy because the energy pathway is going to be different. I'm not going to get into this stuff right now because the video is going to be like 35 minutes long, but basically you ideally want to modify the rep ranges throughout your week to optimize performance. It's not going to be like an essential key part of your training, but it's going to be a good bonus if you do include daily undulating periodization, okay? So yeah, this is why the intensity range is going to be so wide, because we want to train in different rep ranges despite the block we're in, okay? So even in the picking block, we aren't going to be doing singles all the time, okay? We are going to be doing maybe triples, maybe things like that. And also the fact that I do want to preach some maximal training, because what I said previously, we want to keep in mind that we might want to use lighter weights when it comes to more of a technique day or more of a volume day. We're going to be using lighter weights, okay? So here the rep ranges, the reps are going to be slightly skewed downwards, okay? We're going to be training more or less around the 2 to 8 repetition block, okay? So not more like doing like 10 sets, 10 reps, 12 reps, because this is not going to be of too much use here. We can also like really stimulate hypertrophy with doing 8 rep sets. We're gonna do it with 2 rep sets, okay? But whatever. As you can see here, also the volume goes from high to medium, and also when it comes to the variation goes from high to medium again. And why do we need variation when it comes to programming? Because you might want to address some of the weak links when it comes to your training, okay? So maybe if you're talking about a bench press, okay, maybe like the weakness of your bench press. For example, for myself, I've been injured for my elbow for about 10 months, okay? And my triceps got really weak. I lost a lot of mass in my triceps. Like, I already do not have any mass, as you can see, but I also lost a lot of mass in my triceps. So with my coach, he sent me to do some close grip bench press to simulate a similar movement pattern to the actual bench press, so we can have some similar adaptations when it comes to the bench press. Like, if you are only doing regular bench press and then you kill yourself with tricep extensions, this is not going to be not going to be so much carryover. Of course, some carryover is going to be had, because here with the isolation you're going to be stimulating hypertrophy, but it's going to be better if you stimulate hypertrophy through a similar movement pattern, so the nervous system starts adapting to that movement pattern if you're doing it more frequently throughout the week. So in that case, moving the grip a little bit closer in another day, which using maybe higher reps in your volume day, is going to simulate the same movement pattern, but the thing is, with another weight, you desensitize a little bit the stimulation of the pecs and you stimulate more the stimulation of the triceps. So you're going to be including a variation which aids in your weakness when it comes to, for instance, your bench press. And we're going to be talking about the same thing when it comes to a stiff leg deadlift for your posterior chain in your deadlifts, or maybe like a trap bar deadlift to simulate more of the quads in your deadlifts, or more of a front squat to simulate more of the quads in your squats, and like the list goes on and on. And now we get more into the fun stuff, like the heavy stuff. We're talking about the peaking parts of your program, okay? So here there is not much sense of going beyond 5 reps when it comes to peaking, because the whole main purpose goal of doing your peaking phase is to after test your water repetition max, or competing your weightlifting meet, powerlifting meets, whatever the case might be. But when it comes to intensity, we, like, a lot of people think that when you're doing peaking or trying to train for a 1 repetition max, you're going to be doing singles all the time, you're going to be touching 100% of the time, and this is not completely true, okay? Why? Because of what I said previously about volume. If you're doing too much training close to failure, your exertion rate is too high, the volume is going to be diminished, okay? And also the repetition quality. So maybe if you're in your squats, your hips shoot up under heavy weights, this is going to be shooting, noticing very clearly when we're talking about a higher percentage training, okay? So you are going to be doing high percentage training, high exertion training, but this is not going to be the majority of your training, okay? Because this is going to be very demanding, your nervous system is going to be really fatigued, and this is going to be suboptimal when it comes to training, because we still want to accumulate a decent amount of volume at higher intensities, even in your peak, okay? We're not going to be accumulating the same amount of volume here, but volume drives adaptation, so we need some kind of volume even in our peaking phase to have our exertion in our testing. So we are going to be having a range between 75 to 100%, okay? And even if you're doing maybe like a technique day, we do sets of 2 at 80%, like 2 reps at 80% is going to be a pretty good intensity because you're going to be having a decently heavy weight in your back, but the speed of the repetition is going to be good, the recovery is going to be good, you're going to be promoting the practice, the groove of the movement pattern without too much fatigue. And this is great when it comes to adding more volume throughout the week, in a specific rep range, in a specific movements, without too much fatigue. And that stuff I did touch on this a little bit previously, but the volume is going to be lower and the variation is going to be lower. Why did I put like no variation? Because some people may need variation in their training still in their peaking phase, okay? So maybe you're doing like your main strength focus day for, let's say, your squats, but you may need something like a post squat in your other day because maybe out of the hole you're not so confident, like your stabilizer muscles are not that strong, your mobility is not that good, and like coming off the hole for you is like a really tough part, and doing like a post squat is going to be really helpful for you. You might want to, like, you might have implemented the post squat before and you may feel it's going to be very useful, or your coach might feel it, and you can actually include some variation when it comes to your peaking, okay? So that is going to wrap up the video. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you have any kind of question, be sure to leave it in the comment section down below and I'm going to address it for sure. Be sure to subscribe, to leave a like, and yeah, I'm going to be seeing all of you in the next video. Thanks for watching.